Hello, and welcome to the Pride Lands of Lioness Ink and Insight, a den for honest conversations about creativity, identity, the beautifully chaotic experience of being human, and the occasional feral moment, because sometimes that's the most truthful part. I'm your host, Angelia N. Bailey, author, graphic designer, mom, emotional gremlin with a purpose, and someone who has a lot of thoughts about, well, everything. Thanks for stepping into the den with me. Grab a drink, get comfortable, and welcome to the Pride.
Fuck being a princess, I'd rather be a witch. Trade that throne for a flame and a twitch. You got roots, I got roots. You wear flats, I wear boots. Fuck being a princess.
Hello, my lovely Pride of Lioness Ink and Insight. This is Agent Unveiled, Episode 1. Of course, I'm your host, Angelia N. Bailey, author, graphic designer, mom, and someone who believes strongly in creating space for honest human conversations, not only within the publishing industry, but the writing community as a whole. So if you haven't read the article last week that introduced this entire project and miniseries, go ahead, pause this, and take a second to go read that. Otherwise, I'm going to go ahead and recap here of what exactly the Agent Unveiled is. So, the Agent Unveiled is a 4-part mini-series project focused on something we rarely hear, which is the human side of agenting. So, agents are often discussed, debated, generalized, but we don't often get to hear from them as full people with lives, pressures, boundaries, and experiences beyond their job title. This series is meant to change that. Participating in the podcast are agents who were comfortable speaking publicly. This series does include agents who have chosen to remain anonymous and provide statements anonymously to be included in the written articles. Those written articles are going to be companion pieces that will be published a week after each episode. And it'll be a recap of what we've discussed in the podcast and some exclusive content that was not available in the podcast. The articles will also be a place for you, the community and listeners, to share and discuss any public reactions you have to anything. Agents are willing and ready to answer your questions, have conversations, keep it respectful. That is the only requirement. So, without further ado, I am so pleased to begin and continue with our very first guest for this episode, AJ Van Belle. But before we get into it, I'd love for you to introduce yourself in whatever way feels comfortable to you.
Okay, great. Well, thank you so much for having me. I'm AJ Van Belle. I'm an agent and I'm also an author myself. And I agent with the Booker Albert Agency, and I've been doing that for, at this point, exactly a year, and it's been a fantastic ride, so I'm excited to talk about it.
Great. I'm so excited that you were able to join, and I really appreciate you taking the time to do this. I think this is an incredibly important conversation to have. So I'd like to start with the most important part of this is you, the person behind the role. So who are you outside of publishing and agenting?
Oh, interesting question, because I write all the time, so I do an awful lot of that. But I am also very involved with spending time with my family, being in nature, and I am trained as a biologist. I'm a research biologist in microbial ecology.
That is absolutely incredible and impressive.
It's a kind of a funny story, because I got into it partly because I had always been interested in biology, but partly because I had been trying to form my career as a writer for uh many, many years, and I had finally said, this must just not be meant to be for me. And I went and did multiple graduate degrees, and then I taught for a while during my PhD and for a couple of years afterwards. But during that time, writing had been coming back into my life, and I realized that I had thought I was quitting writing for publication, but that was not going to be the case at all. And I was like, okay, I'm back in this to stay. And over the years, I've done a lot of critique partnering with some amazing writers. And several years ago, I started mentoring. And the combination of that experience and working with my own agent, Lauren Beaker, who's just amazing, made me decide that I wanted to support other writers in a deeper way myself as well. So that was why I sought an internship in agenting in 2023. I guess I brought us back to agenting. You asked more who I am outside of that and how I got into biology, but that's how I got into biology and then how it led me back into the writing and publishing and agenting world.
Yeah, absolutely. That's actually one of my questions that I was going to ask you for this episode. So that led right into it. That was perfect. Which is what's something people would never guess about you.
Oh gosh, yeah. Um, I would say at this point, my biology is all over my bios and my socials talking about the books that I have coming out with Bloomsbury and with Orca books on biology related subjects. So I'm not sure people would never guess that. Uh, I think something that most people would not guess about me, even if they have stalked my socials and know me pretty well, is that I had quite a series of jobs. As somebody who grew up knowing I wanted to be a writer, you have to have a day job. And I
Yeah.
searched through day jobs. I actually did my undergraduate degree in art because that is also an interest of mine and something that I wanted to challenge myself in. So one thing people might not guess now is that for a while my full-time job was being the artist at a family-owned screen printing company that was very proud of all their art being hand drawn. And I was hired to sit at a light table and draw the designs for the t-shirts that they made and shipped around the world. And people also might not guess that what I did after that was I became a massage therapist. And that
My
was what I
gosh.
did full time for several years. I
That
actually really loved that job.
that's absolutely incredible. That's such a wide variety of things and yeah, I don't think anyone would ever guess that. So just the variety of it from microbiology to a massage therapist and artist, that's incredible.
I thought I was lost and wandering around looking for a career. And I kind of joke to myself now that what I was actually doing was a bunch of different training for writing or for being able to understand a greater range of client writing because I've done so many different jobs that I have a whole trove of things to draw on and can give characters all kinds of different careers.
Yeah, no, I understand that completely. I do the same thing even as a writer. So out of all of those things, what is it that you wanted to do before you found the agenting career? What used to be your absolute soul dream career?
It was and still is also to write books that people have a lot of fun reading and to share them with a lot of people. So that is what I have wanted to do ever since early childhood. And that's what I'm finally doing now alongside agenting, doing both of them. I honestly want to say I'm doing both of them full time. I'm cramming rather than each of them half time. I'm doing both full time, cramming them in. But I really love it.
That's awesome. Yeah, no, I understand that, believe me. What does a good day look like for you when work isn't running the show?
When work isn't running the show, usually it'll involve doing something with my family. I'm happily married and I have a 19-year-old daughter, and so it might involve doing some hiking with my husband and my dogs, doing a craft or something with my daughter. We still will do that together. Like we've been doing watercolor paintings together. So it's a little bit of a continuation of what life was like when she was little. Um, Doing a workout. It's none of it's very exciting or exotic, but that's reading a good book. And this blurs the line with work a little bit, but reading a good client book or submitted manuscript, I'll do that in otherwise off time. And that, of course, is always a real pleasure.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So what grounds you when things feel overwhelming?
Uh, mm, I'm a talker, so always talking to people who are close to me is one thing. I am Another one of my jobs is that I was a yoga teacher for 7 years. I might still teach at some point coming up, but I still practice yoga, and that is so balancing, so grounding. So I try to incorporate that in my routine, and it really keeps me grounded even when I'm my brain has to go 12 different directions.
Right. That makes absolutely total sense. Well, AJ, that is all I have for you today. Is there any final thought or closing note you would like to leave listeners with?
I just wanted to say thank you for having me and for that nice note about agents. And I think I will add that what you said about humanizing agents is so important for the writer too, because I know when I was a querying writer, it was scary sometimes because you think that the agent is kind of up there on a pedestal somewhere.
Huh.
And what you're doing is really great to help writers realize, no, this is a human being. Um, yes, they have so many submissions that they can't respond personally to everything, just as in terms of a practical possibility, but it's still a human being who will be understanding, and that if you do get the chance to communicate with them, you can talk to them. So anyway,
Exactly.
thank you so much for having me.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely. And that's like the whole entire point and mission behind this is to show this is a human being. This is not just some idolized role or, image that a lot of people seem to have in their heads that, they're human just like you. They're a person. You need to be understanding. You need to be patient. They're not going to be perfect. They're not going to say all the right things at all the right times and everything that's going to make everybody happy at once. So that's one of the other things we're going to dive deeper into in the next episode where you'll be joining me for. And then if anyone listening has questions, would you be willing to answer those questions if they ask in the comments?
Sure, I can try to the best of my ability.
Of course. Well, thank you so much, AJ, for taking the time to sit down and chat with me today and give listeners an idea of who you are outside your agent role. Up next, listeners, we have Rachel Estep joining us.
But you want calm, I want stone. I crack bones just to be reborn.
Thank you so much, Rachel, for stepping into the Pride Lands of Lioness Ink and Insight to have this important conversation. Before we get started, same as with AJ, would you mind introducing yourself and however you're comfortable doing so?
Okay. Hi, I'm Rachel Estep. I'm a literary agent with DeForio Literary, and before that, and with that, I'm also a bookseller at New and Old Pages Bookshop in Englewood, Ohio. I work across a span of all genre fiction, with the exception of hard sci-fi and like political thriller, but pretty much everything else, and some nonfiction. So I'm very broad. I do a lot of advocating for diversity and diverse voices, both physical diversity, mental diversity, and ethnicity diversity. And that's it.
So, who are you outside of publishing?
Yeah, that's an interesting question because books have been such a huge part of my life for so long that a lot of times when people say, "Who are you?" I say, "I'm a book girl." But outside of publishing and outside of the world of books, I'm also a mom, and I have two little boys, and I'm a wife. I'm a sister and a daughter. I do a lot with my family. I'm also a homesteader. We have about 40 chickens and a 2-acre garden that is my pride and joy. So, I mean, who am I can be answered in so many ways, but it comes down to kind of the you are what you love, right?
Yeah.
And so I think that's I am a daughter, a sister, a mother, a gardener, a pet mom. Specifically, I'm a pit bull mom and a cat mom. That's who I am.
What does a good day look like for you when work is not running the show?
Oh goodness. I think it's a day when just there's nothing any good day is a day when nothing bad happened, right? Um,
Yeah.
so but I love days when my husband is home and we get to do things with our kids. My youngest son is medically fragile and he's sick a lot. So any day when he's feeling good and my husband is home and we all get to go out and do something together, that's a great day. I love theme parks and we're lucky to have Kings Island close to us. And I love to take my boys and my husband and go to Kings Island for the day or something like that. I also am really blessed to have a great group of friends. And so, if I get a day where I can go hang out with them for the day, that's fantastic. It's any day that is surrounded by love and happiness. And of course, there's always going to be reading in there because I don't think I've gone a day without reading in like the past decade of my life, if not longer. Um, but I think it's really just a day that is surrounded by like love and getting to be with my friends and family and doing fun things. I know that's a cliche thing to say, but in the world we
No,
live
it's not.
in, it really is real.
Yeah, that's like the most human thing anybody wants. Like, that's the most basic human level want and need and desire. That's like the whole point of this is showing everybody, like, you are just human. You're just a
Yeah.
person. Your role does
Yeah.
not define you. So, what is something people would never guess about you?
Oh gosh, this one's hard and I really don't know because I feel like I'm kind of an open book. I'm on
Yeah.
social media a lot and I just kind of say what comes out of my mouth or what comes into my head comes out of my mouth.
Yeah.
Um so I really don't think there's anything that anybody would be like, "Oh my god, really?" Because I think people who follow me or people who've been around me for more than 5 minutes have really kind of lost the surprise factor. Uh, they just kind of expect me to say ridiculous stuff.
Yeah.
Uh, I don't know. I won a pogo stick championship when I was little. Um,
That
I
is
was re
definitely not, not something I wouldn't have guessed.
I was really good at pogo stick and at hula hoop. I won a community picnic hula hooping contest too. These are really ridiculous things to answer that question, but I don't have a really good one because I'm pretty much an open book, I think. I tell my clients and all the time, I'm like 3 raccoons in a trench coat trying to get by.
No, that's absolutely perfect. That's exactly what I was looking for. Because I mean, I would have never guessed that about you. What did you want to do before you found this career of being an agent?
Wow, so that's kind of a long A to B to C to D to E to get here. So my original career path was in theater. I graduated high school as president of my drama club, and I went to school for theater at Wright State University. I was actually living in New York doing an internship with the Hangar Theater, and my dad had a really, really bad accident back
Wow.
home. And so I turned like an accident that he should not have survived. There's no legitimate medical explanation. You ask the surgeon how he saved my dad's life, and he says, "I don't know, I prayed."
Wow.
Um, yeah, it was really bad, and even if you tell people now what his injuries were, they are not survivable injuries. So the fact that like I think he's outside shoveling right now is wild.
It's a
Um
miracle.
yeah, but so I was actually on my internship in New York when it happened, and by just the way life is, my mom was actually on an airplane on her way to me.
Oh my
Um
gosh.
And so when she got off the airplane, we literally just got in my car and booked it home. And I went back to school the next year, and I was so focused on my dad and what was going on at home. And I don't know if you know much about theater, but it's really an all or nothing kind of situation. You give the theater 100% or you give them 0.
Yeah,
And
I did a little bit of it.
I couldn't commit to giving 100% at that time because my family needed me. So I ended up leaving the theater program. And I fell back on emergency medicine because I'm 4th generation emergency medicine in my family. And it's kind of just what everybody always expected me to do. And I didn't want to, but at that time I was in this place where like my dreams had been stalled. I didn't know what to do, but I definitely needed to be doing something. So I went and got my EMS license, and I worked in emergency medicine for the next couple of years. And I was an EMT. And I hated it. I have always loved emergency medicine in theory. I started my cadets when I was 14 and I was running with my mom's duty squad. However, I'm very soft. I'm a very soft person. And so every trauma was my trauma. And that's not a healthy way to live. So I'm not mentally and emotionally built for it. And I have so much respect for the people who are. So I ended up getting out of that right around when I got married and had my first son, who was a preemie. And so I made the decision at the time to stay home with him because he was teeny tiny. And so I stayed home with him, and then I ended up with my other son. And very quickly after, they're almost Irish twins. And so I was being a stay-at-home mom for a while. My youngest son had his brain injury, and it kind of stalled everything. I really needed to be focused on him and needed to be available for him. And so my husband was working and I was staying at home. Also, COVID was happening. And my dad also had some medical issues going on. So we actually ended up selling our house and moving into my parents' house so that when they said, "Hey, do you live in the same house?" we could say, "Yes, we do." That way we could get their help with Ezra and they could get our help with, dad. And it was all we needed to be together. But it was exhausting to be here all the time. With my parents, with the kids. I needed to get out. Both my parents during COVID ended up retiring, and so finances for the whole family became a little bit different. Between being cooped up and the financial situation, it became very clear I needed to get out and do something. And so I went to this bookstore that I have loved my entire life. I have pictures of myself on the floor at like age 7. The owner knows me because I've been there back and forth and back and forth. Um, and I told her what was going on, and she said, "Well, how about a couple days a week?" And I said, "Yeah, let's do it." And so I started working for Marianne for 3 days a week at the bookstore. And over the years, I started doing a little bit more and a little bit more until I started doing a lot more. And now I run the events for the store, and I do a lot of the author outreach. And I travel to a lot of author conventions and book festivals for that. And I had an author say to me, "Hey, Rachel, what you do going out to these conventions, finding talent, taking it back to Marianne, pitching it to her and convincing her to bring them in is very similar to agenting. Have you ever thought of it?" At the time, I was like, I've thought about it, of course. I've thought about all kinds of book-related careers, but that's a New York job. And my youngest son is very tied to the hospital here.
Right.
And she said, "No, it's not. It's 2020. Actually, this was 2023. She said, it's not a New York job so much anymore." And the seed had been planted, and I didn't do anything with it until late 2024 when I started really researching, and I bought every single book in the universe about being a literary agent, and I followed different agents on LinkedIn and online, and I learned just everything I could soak in from the outside because literary agenting is typically such a pathway career. You go to school, you get a degree in English, then you get a master's in publishing, and you do an internship, and you become an associate, and then there's a path. And I was not doing that. And so I just wanted to soak in every possible thing that I could before I even made an attempt. And then in early 2025, I just started emailing every single agency I could come up with. I Googled agencies. I pulled every book off my bookshelf, some 200, 300 books, and went to the acknowledgments and looked for what agency was in the back and wrote it down.
Oh my gosh.
And then emailed them. My son's nurse actually took a picture of me with all the books spread out across my bed, and she said she was going to keep it so when I hit big, she could still, she could look back on that picture.
Aw.
Because I was literally just going to every acknowledgments in every book I owned and writing down the agent's name, then Googling what agency that agent was with and emailing them to say, hey, I know you don't have any job postings posted, and I don't have any literary agenting experience, but here's the relevant experience that I do have. Please give me a chance.
That's
And
total
Bob,
dedication.
yeah, and Bob DeForio originally said no, he didn't have room. And then about 2 weeks later, he emailed me and was like, hey, somebody who was gonna come and intern with us didn't. Let's chat.
Oh, that's so amazing.
Yeah. And so on the call, he actually stopped me. I was like, Rachel, I need to be honest with you. I was interviewing you for this reader position, but I really think you're above that. How would you like to just start in as an agent? And I was like, oh, let's do it.
Right? That's honestly a beautiful story of how you came to agenting. And that shows your dedication to the role and your passion for it and your clients too.
It's been a long road filled with a lot of up and downs, but I couldn't be happier with where my career is now.
What is something that grounds you when things do feel overwhelming?
My dog is really good at that, to be honest. I made a post one day. I don't remember what the topic was, but I said something about how I may cry into my dog's fur and boss up when he gets tired of his fur being wet, girl. And that's very accurate.
Yeah, our buddies are like our little cuddle bugs, and
Yeah, he's the best boy. So sometimes I will just kind of shut down and lay down with the dog for a little bit and just pull back. I also, like I said before, I'm very, very, very blessed to have kind of a girl squad of best friends.
yeah,
And they are very grounding. I'm very blessed to have a squad of girls who will say, hey, Rachel, you're out of your mind right now, but also who will validate me, when I need validated. They're very good at that. So it's wonderful to be able to look at my best friends and be like, I'm freaking out, I'm frustrated, I'm exhausted, I hate everything. And for them to be like, actually, you're being dramatic. Sit down, you're going to be fine.
like your own little reality check crew.
Yes.
Well, Rachel, I really appreciate you taking the time to let listeners get a feel of who you are as a person. That is it for episode 1. Is there any final thought or closing note you'd like to leave listeners with today?
I don't think so. I just really thank you for doing this kind of humanizing the agent. It's a lot of fun. And, I wish we could be a little bit more personal with writers on that side of things. It's hard. We're so busy, and there's a lot of nuanced dynamics that we're afraid to get into sometimes, I think, that create this barrier, this fear of parasocial relationships. And it's important to remember that everyone involved is human, and this is a career and an industry based on love. Nobody is doing this job without a love for stories.
Yeah, absolutely. That's the whole idea behind it. And I hope we actually go over the nuances in episode 3, but I hope too that this whole mini series will help to bridge that gap and extend like an olive branch where people are more kind, more patient with agents and realize that they're more than their role, so that you guys have the ability to be more personal when you want to be or choose to be. Well, if anyone listening has questions about anything you've said today, would you be willing to answer those questions if they ask them in the comments?
Absolutely.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much, Rachel, again, for taking the time to chat with me today.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Stars, I'll kiss the dark, I'll bless the pain. My kind don't die, we just change our name. Fuck being a princess.
Joining us now in the Pride Lands of Lioness Ink and Insight is Ciara Smith. Ciara, thank you so much for joining along in this important conversation. Would you mind going ahead and introducing yourself to everyone in the Pride?
All right. Well, I am Ciara Smith, an associate agent at Spencer Hill Associates. I started my agenting journey at Corby Sierra Literary Agency, where I started as an intern, moved on to an apprentice and associate, and was fortunate enough to be able to move agencies in order to continue growing and have a new perspective on publishing. I started my adult life as a Navy sailor, but I finished out my contract and realized that books were where I wanted to be. And I got my bachelor's in creative writing and tried very hard to write a book and unfortunately queried it because it was terrible. And in that querying process, I realized that there were not enough agents who understood the neurodivergent and disabled life and understood the characters that we could possibly write, and decided I was going to be an agent to champion those voices specifically, though I do welcome all types.
That's awesome. I never knew you were in the Navy, so that's incredible to learn about you. One of the questions I was going to ask was, what's something people would never guess about you? So I think that kind of tied into it really well.
Yeah. Well, I do put it in my bio. I do have it in a few places here and there that I am a veteran. But it doesn't inform my agenting a lot, except I can't really handle PTSD stories. Like especially like military PTSD stories, so that's in my anti-manuscript wish list. But otherwise, I didn't think that was a surprising thing about me. Um, let's see. I Surprising things about me. I'm pretty transparent and open on my social media. So I'm a pagan witch, but that's not surprising. I do spin my own yarn. That might be a little surprising. Since I knit and crochet, I got into spinning yarn as well, and that's been really fun. And my first date with my husband was in Bahrain riding camels on Christmas Day. I think that's something that I haven't shared and surprises everybody that I tell.
That sounds incredible. That's an amazing first date. Where do I
Yeah.
find one of those?
I would say join the Navy, but I discourage everyone from just joining the Navy.
Yeah, I think I'm a little too soft for any type of military. I don't think it would work out very well. So, Sierra, who are you outside of publishing?
Oh my goodness. We've had Rachel on the show, and she probably already said this, but I completely agree with the term chaos gremlin, honestly. That's why me and Rachel are such good friends because we're both chaos gremlins. And it's funny
Yeah.
because it's like I have spreadsheets galore for like my own personal writing. I have spreadsheets for like projects that I want to make and the yarn that I need to make them for knitting and crochet. But then like if you actually saw my workspace and like where my knitting is, it's just they're shoved in random bags and piled up on the table next to my couch, and I don't really wear pajamas. If I'm home all day and I have nowhere to go, I will just wear my sweatpants and cozy sweater and go to bed and then change the next morning. Um, so I'm a homebody and I'm a hermit. I don't like going outside unless I really have to. That's
So,
messy. That's
what does
me.
a good day look like for you when work isn't running the show?
I feel like a good day for me would be really, really boring for everybody else. Monday, when it was a snow day and my husband was also off of work and we didn't have anywhere to go, it was just nice. He was playing video games, my daughter was playing video games, and I swapped back and forth from playing Sunhaven, which is an amazing video game, and knitting on a sweater that is just like the plainest stitch all the way around in a circle. And that was pretty perfect of a day. But it would
No,
sound so boring to anybody else.
that sounds like a good peaceful day. Like that's pretty much what I love video gaming. So you got me there, and I want to know more about the Sunhaven later. I tried to get into the new Elden Ring and it's just too boring for me. But there's a new Fable coming out this autumn. I don't know if
Ooh,
have you heard
I
about
think
the
I
Fable?
I think my husband was talking about that, but I was hyper fixated and I was like, don't tell me about new video games. I don't know if I want to play it. Just what this game.
Well, if you've never played Fable, even for listeners, go play Fable. There's a couple that say they're from Xbox 360, but they're on the Xbox store and you can play them now. Absolutely amazing games. Great especially for writers and authors, storytellers. Like that's a perfect game to play.
Well, then I'll re-ask about it and definitely check it out.
He's probably gonna be so excited, like, yeah. Any person that's a fan of Fable is like looking for the opportunity to just rant about it. Hence Exhibit A.
That's awesome. He's trying to get me to play Split Fiction, um, which is it's kind of sci-fi because, and I don't know if the readers will like this concept at all because it's like a machine that takes the story from your brain. And I was like, oh no, all of the AI haters are not gonna like this game.
Oh my
But
god.
um but it takes the story out of your head and somehow the woman ends up in the wrong story and then like the fantasy writer and the sci-fi writer end up like bouncing between each other's stories and having to escape and figure out what's wrong with the company. Like it looks really cool, but it has to be played two player.
That actually sounds really fun. That sounds like something me and my son would play.
Yeah, you definitely should check it out.
Oh yeah, no, definitely gonna ask you about it after this. So, outside from video games and stuff, what grounds you when things feel overwhelming?
My yarn, definitely. I've been I have a lot of projects on submission right now. And so as soon as I close my work laptop, I'm like, okay, I'm going to play with yarn now. And I've been doing a lot of complicated techniques and exploring like new ways of construction. And I'm having so much fun for that. And I have like 5 active projects right now. And I'm loving every single one of them. I just immerse myself in yarn because it's so soft and some of them are like complex, so it keeps my brain busy, and some of them are super simple, so I can just watch a comfort movie and just let my hands do the thing because I have the muscle memory for that, thank goodness. And that's honestly that is my grounding thing. I get
It's like
obsessive and hyper focused.
it's like a mental reset, but a sensory thing at the same time.
Yep.
No, that makes total sense. So before agenting, what did you want to do before you found this career?
So I also have a pastry arts degree, and
Oh
I thought
wow.
I was going to open a bakery. I guess that could have been under surprising things to know about me. Um, but I was gonna open a bakery, and before I moved to my current state, which is in, the vague Great Lakes region, I was in states that did not have horrible humidity, and I was a macaron queen. Like
Oh
I
my
made
gosh.
dessert macarons and absolutely like it's a very technical dessert to make, but I had mastered it and I was so good at it. And then I moved to a very humid location and the macarons fail and it makes me so sad. But yeah, I was gonna open a bakery when I got to the state and then I found out that the macarons wouldn't work in the humidity and so I was like, okay, we'll go back to publishing.
Oh, well, I think that's awesome. And I absolutely adore macarons. My 14-year-old is obsessed. Did you know in France and McDonald's, they sell those in the in the McDonald's?
Oh my
Yeah.
gosh, I'm so jealous. So
And
there are two different methods of making macarons, and one of them originated in Italy. So
really,
that is funny to me.
I love Italy. I'm going there in May.
I'm so jealous.
Yes, I'm spending the whole month of May just exploring Europe wherever I decide to go. I'm so excited about it.
That sounds amazing. You know, it's so funny. I was in the Navy and I saw so many different places, but they were all in like Asia and the Middle East, and I never got to see Europe. So I'm very jealous.
Well, you're welcome to come and tag along for a weekend if you want to. Well, Ciara, I really appreciate you taking the time to let listeners get a feel for who you are as a person outside of the role. Is there any final thought or closing note you would like to leave listeners with today?
Only that even though I'm a chaos gremlin and I'm messy, like when it comes to books, I'm very methodical. So if you didn't like that I'm extremely messy and I just bounce around in my personal life, do not be worried. Your query is safe and methodically looked over.
Yeah, that's I think that's perfect because that shows like there's the agent part and then there's the human, the person behind it. So that
Yep,
perfectly illustrated that. And if anyone listening has questions about anything you've said or just wants to make any comments, would you be willing to answer questions if they ask them in the comments?
absolutely. I love questions.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much, Ciara, for taking the time to chat with me today. It was so great getting to sit down with you, and I can't wait to continue this important conversation over the next two episodes.
Thank you for having me.
Joining me now is Shelly Romero. Before we get into it, Shelly, I'd love for you to introduce yourself in whatever way feels comfortable.
Hi, so I'm Shelly Romero. I'm a Honduran American associate agent at Azantian Literary. I'm a former editor. I started my career in 2017, which is almost a decade now, and very weird to say. I started at Scholastic and Kidlit and have worked my way at different places, have been a freelance editor, have worked with authors like Shea Serrano, R.L. Stein, love Bob. And yeah, I'm a big horror fan. So if you probably follow me on social, you'll see that. And I am definitely like a movie person. So that's another aspect of my work that I like to do.
That's incredible. You worked with R.L. Stein. That's like one of my favorite childhood authors.
Yeah, he is so funny. His humor is so dry. And the first time I met him, I was dressed like a pony. It was like a whole Scholastic like costume contest, and I was like, you're all hi, like you're all Stein, like and I was like, I just got hired here, just started like a month ago, and he was just like, I used to work at Scholastic once, and then they fired me, but now they pay me a lot of money.
I'm like,
and
yeah, I
that's
bet.
and that's like that's literally like the first time I met Bob. Like he is just that kind of humor and just very sardonic and dry and but very very friendly.
What did you want to be before you found this career?
I feel like I've had phases, right? Like I wanted to be a volcanologist. I like really love the Dante's Peak and volcano movies.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, I love volcanoes. They're so cool. They're so scary. And then I was like, no, I love great white sharks and I want to help conserve them because they're misunderstood. So I wanted to be a marine biologist as a kid. And then I discovered that you would need a lot of like math and science, right? Obviously. So I was like, that's a no go. Wanted to be a fashion designer because it was like the height of Project Runway.
Oh my
And
gosh.
I remember watching like Christian Siriano's like a season,
Yes.
and I was like, he is going to be like amazing, and he is. Um, but it was in college, my freshman year, that I heard about like my campus literary magazine, Harbinger. I went to a women's college in the middle of Missouri, Stevens College. It's a mile down the road from Mizzou. So if anyone is big into SEC football, yeah, literally went down the road. Um, but I got involved in Harbinger. I published like a short story my freshman year, I think. And then my sophomore year, I joined as like a poetry editor. And I just fell in love with it. I just fell in love with kind of creating something with other people and editing and learning how to do all this and taking submissions. We did submission reading. We would go around and, rate what stories we wanted to include, and from that, what the theme of the issue would be ultimately. So it was a really great hands-on learning experience, and from that moment I was like, I want to work in publishing.
Oh my gosh, that's incredible. So who are you outside of publishing and outside of being an agent?
I am just a big scream queen. I call myself Latina Randy Meeks, just without him being creepy.
Yeah.
I'm such a big horror person. I'm always trying to do something horror related. My board games are horror related, or they're versions of games that are normal, but then they have the horror component. You know, I like to go to Halloween Horror Nights. We started my first year, I was 11 years old. It was 2006. So we always go to Orlando for that. Now, thanks to my husband's work, we also get to enjoy going to Disney. So we both really love going to amusement parks and riding the rides and doing all the little things. Um, I'm also definitely a beach person. It sucks living here in New York City because the waters are cleaner than Miami. I'm from Miami.
Yeah.
They don't have any stuff in them really, but because the floor is kind of dirty, it looks kind of muddy and brown and gross. The other issue with New York City beaches is that they're 2 hours on the train from me.
Oh my
So even
gosh.
just to get to Coney Island it's a day thing. But I absolutely love it because I'm an early beach person, and New York City people don't tend to go to the beach until 1 p.m. But yeah, I think yeah, I'm just big into the genres. I'm also just such a people person. I'm a yapper, certified yapper. So I always like to hang out with people and do things with them. I love going on friend dates. That's what I tend to do outside of work.
So what grounds you, Shelly, when things are feeling overwhelming, either with work or just your day-to-day life?
Oh, my husband and my friends. Typically, I've always said this about publishing, whether you're a publishing professional or you're author, that one of the best things you could have is an actual good community around you, a good support system
Yeah,
that
absolutely.
you can check in with and be like, am I going insane? Is this something that I did mess up, or are they kind of being kooky? And you can have those people being like, no girl, it's definitely not you, or this doesn't matter. I think you will often hear publishing professionals just be like, this is not like Grey's Anatomy. It's not a beautiful day to save lives. It's just books. And books are so important for so many reasons. But at the end of the day, when things get really, really stressful, it's good to remember that. I'm not Christina Yang. I'm not her. I'm not performing open heart surgery. I can take a step away and things will be okay.
Yeah.
So definitely that. And having friends who are both outside the industry and in the industry is super helpful, because they can also be like, oh, that's really wild. And I'm like, right, but that's just publishing. Or my husband being like, just take a break. So I definitely love having those people around me who can really help me out.
Yeah, and that's really crucial to have. And I think it's I think it is the most invaluable resource, either as writers or even agents, even just as people, to have those people that are there to champion you on and be supportive and unwavering with you.
Yeah. And I've talked about this quite a bit before, but this is an old industry and there's so many systemic problems that come with it, that you really do need things outside of publishing, outside of the books to care about to do. I started doing tennis last year, before I joined my agency. I had worked at like the front desk for a couple months, and then they offered to take classes. And I've never played a sport, but I was like, all right, in my Challengers era, which
I
I
love
thought
that.
that movie was okay, but I did love the soundtrack. But like, I just, I ended up trying it, and I've been playing it since. Like, I've been playing it steadily, like once a week for about a year now. Um, and that's something that like is so helpful, but it's also something that's kind of opened up like more opportunities, for example, to have like a community, both in publishing or not. Like, I have a friend who used to be varsity high school captain, and she still has those skills. So we've played outside, and it's so, so great. Like, literally, like to go touch grass and then
Yeah.
to like disconnect and just get away from like whatever conversations happening on threads or Instagram or X or whatever.
Oh, yeah, no, absolutely. So what's a good day look like for you when work is not running the show?
Like, just a regular day.
Yeah.
Usually I'm probably watching a movie. As I mentioned at the top of this, at my intro, I used to be a huge Alamo Drafthouse fan. I will not get started into why I'm like no longer a patron of them, but I've been going to like my local AMC's here in the city and just going at odd hours to try to see like movies without as many like people. And it's been working out great. And I absolutely love it. Like, I think like one of the big things that I did not like about Alamo Drafthouse was having just like a regular butter popcorn and then like an icy, like a Coke icy. Like, that is my meal at a movie. And so I'm usually seeing a new movie. I just saw one the other day. I saw 28 Years Later, The Bone Temple, which was amazing, better than the first sequel.
Oh my gosh, yes.
I saw like No Other Choice last week. So I try to go like once a week, or I'm like at home. I'm like trying to figure out like, okay, do I want to like rewatch this show? Do I want to watch a new movie? Maybe I'm playing like video games on my Switch or my PS5. So, it all like kind of depends on like what we're doing. Sometimes I'll be doing things with my husband, other times I'll just be doing things with friends. I don't like staying at home, so I do try to like go out and about, but that also is hard because then you spend money when you're out and about.
Oh yeah. No, especially now, like you gotta pay to park, pay to do this, pay to do that.
Yeah, absolutely.
So what's something people would never guess about you?
Oh my God. If you don't know as much about me, then this might be a big surprise, because I do talk about it quite a bit, but I was in a sorority. And I'm still like an alumni member. I'm not really as active as I'd like to be in like Pan-Hellenic alumni things here in the city.
Yeah.
But that's what I mean of like trying to find things outside publishing to do, or people to hang out with. Um, but yes, I'm in Kappa Delta.
Oh yes, I know Kappa
KD,
Delta.
yeah, KD. Um, and since, like I mentioned, like we were right near Mizzou, it was really cool to occasionally go over there and like support our sisters. And we got to check out their house and see their like crafting room and see like their big kitchen and all their different dorms. But yeah, I was involved in KD. I was academic excellence chair. So in college, I was basically in charge of like all of our members' GPAs, and they had to report them to me. Like, I had to see their end of semester GPAs. They couldn't drop below, I think, 2.3 or 2.5. Or they would be sent to standards. They would be put on probation. So thankfully, nothing really that wild happened. I did have to like tell a girl that she could not go to like convention, like the big convention, because her GPA had slipped to way too low, and that was not fun. But I got to do like so many really fun things. We got to work with the Girl Scouts, which is one of the charities that they work with. Got to do a 5K to for raise funds for like Prevent Child Abuse America.
Oh,
But yeah,
Well, Shelly, that's it for this episode. I really appreciate you taking the time to let listeners get a feel
Yeah,
for
of
who you are.
course.
Is there
Yes.
any final thoughts or closing notes you would like to leave listeners with today?
I think truly, truly having those things outside of publishing, outside of writing, outside of your work is so, so important. Like, as I mentioned, community is so important. But with that, I think the caveat is that people who seem like they're in community with you may not actually be. So it is a hard lesson to learn. But when you do find those people who are their true selves, who really support you and you support, and that is reciprocated, that's invaluable. But sometimes there are those bad actors in the industry who want to be near you because of who you hang out with or who you
Yeah.
know, and things like that. But again, it's always just, again, it's not a beautiful day to save lives, like I mentioned. Find those things that like really do fill your passions, like outside of publishing.
That's absolutely very well said. If anyone listening has questions about anything you've said today, would you be willing to answer questions if they ask them in the comments?
Yeah, absolutely.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much again for taking the
Yes,
time to chat with me today.
thank you. I appreciate it.
Who said quiet wins? You did. Who built thrones for men alone? You did. Who burns us when we grin? You did.
Jumping into the Pride Lands with us now is Vicky Weber. Vicky, would you mind going ahead and introducing yourself to the Pride?
Yeah, I am an author, a literary agent, a mom of two. I have a 2-year-old and a 4-year-old. And above all, I'm an educator. Before I entered the publishing industry, I was an elementary school teacher for 6 years, and that really carries over into everything that I do now. I do own a coaching company called At Home Author, where I try to provide the advice and the insights and the resources that I wish I had when I first started out. So, yeah.
Cool. Well, thank you for sharing that. So for this episode, episode one, as most of my listeners know by now, is we're going to start with the most important part of the entire interview, which is you, the person behind the roles. So who are you outside of publishing?
I think that's a hard question because publishing is just such a huge part of who I am.
Right.
I'm the kid that I got grounded from reading all the time as a kid. My mom hates when I share that because she's like, "You make me sound like a bad mom." And I'm like, "Don't worry, mom. I always tell them I deserved it." She's like, "That makes it sound worse." Um, but in her defense, I would be reading instead of doing the things I was supposed to be doing. Instead of doing my chores or whatever it was. But I've always loved books. I've always been an insatiable reader. And when I got older and I started doing things like I started teaching in high school, mostly like music lessons, private lessons,
Yeah.
tutoring, things like that. I very quickly learned that not everybody, and in fact, a good chunk of people, do not love reading the way that I do. And when I was in the classroom, I found that a big reason for that is just kids haven't found the right book. And if they can find the right book, they can fall in love with reading and they can get better at reading and they could jump so many hurdles. So I wanted to be a part of that. And so that's what kicked me off on the publishing journey. I actually started on the author side. So I was an author before I was a literary agent. And so for me, that's kind of what inspired it all. And so much of that is just rooted in who I am and who I've always been. And my kids are picking up on that now too. They are also insatiable readers. We read every night. My son will just sit quietly with a book. He's 2 years old. He can't read any of it, but it doesn't matter. And I try to really foster and encourage that because there are so many things that you can accomplish when your imagination is unlocked in that way. And I feel like everybody deserves to not only be seen in the books that they read, but also experience characters who don't look and think and feel the way that they do, because that's where empathy starts to grow. So, all that to say, I am a chatterbox. I am a mom. I'm an educator. I'm a creative. I'm an energizer bunny. I never stop moving or thinking or trying to do all the things. But at the end of the day, what's always at the front of my mind is, how do I leave a better world behind me? How do I make an impact, make a difference, make someone feel seen, or encourage somebody to do something that they wouldn't have otherwise?
That's beautiful. So what do you is there anything that you would have done before you found publishing? I know you said that you taught for a little bit before you found this career as an agent. Is that something that you would have pursued long term or something else?
You know, I probably would have stuck around for a while longer. I actually left during COVID. I taught for 6 years, and I taught music education and STEAM mostly, but
Yeah.
my master's degree is in ESL, so sometimes they would pull me for ESL services and things. So I taught the whole school. My days were very different, very sporadic, very, where can we put Vicky where is she needed? Um, but when COVID hit, everybody was understandably scrabbling and trying to figure out, how do we make this work? And that was when I got pregnant with my daughter. My daughter's 4. She was my first. And that was around the time that I realized that I couldn't be the mom I wanted to be and stay in teaching. There was just a lot of moving parts. I was in a very supportive district, and I still was just completely emotionally spent at the end of the day. And I knew that I wouldn't have the patience or the time or the attentiveness or any of the things that I really wanted for my family if I stayed. So I never went back from my maternity leave.
It sounds like you've been through a lot to get where you are, and publishing has kind of brought in a little bit of light into your life and a time when you needed it. So, what does a good day look like for you when work isn't running the show?
Ooh, that's a great question. Probably my kids at home, us doing something fun, preferably when the weather is nice. I do not like the cold. I only want snow on Christmas, and then I would like it to go away. Uh, just not my jam, but I live in the Chicago suburbs,
Oh
so
my gosh.
I don't get what I want, but that's okay. Um, so I would say nice weather, walks with the family, or we have a park down the street. So doing something outside with the family, or crafts or things like that, and then coming back home, eating some food. We like cooking a lot at my house, and then reading a bunch of books. That would be dream scenario if work was off the table for the day.
That actually sounds like a pretty normal, peaceful, easygoing day. What grounds you when things feel overwhelming?
Ooh. Um, I think trying to find the things that are innately me. I think one of the hard things about agenting and running at home author and doing all of those coaching things, it is very, very easy for me to fall into the trap of prioritizing other people and other people's projects above my own. Um,
Yeah.
and when you're a mom of 2 littles, that is also a trap in itself. So it's very easy for me to not do any type of self-care, or not take care of the things, if not fill my cup, not let myself rest, things like that. So when I do reach that point, I try to figure out, okay, what is something I like to do for fun that I haven't done in a while, or what is something that I really enjoy that I would like time to do. And I try to make that a priority, because it gets tricky even with reading, because reading does bring me a lot of joy. But there is a massive difference between, I am reading this and my editor brain is on, my critical
Yeah.
strategic thinking hat is on, versus I'm just reading this to enjoy it. And so with the agenting piece, there are certain genres that I can't like turn it off. So yeah, I think it's just trying to find the stuff that makes me feel like me and makes me enjoy life and remembering to work those in. Sometimes I need my husband to remind me to do that, but that's usually the first thing I turn to.
So we know that you used to substitute teach. We know you're a mama. We know you're an agent and all the things that we've discussed today. But what's something people would never guess about you?
Ooh, okay. So mostly I'm known for children's literature, although I do represent everything from kidlit all the way through adult, and I do write adult fiction under a pen name, just not everybody knows that because my kidlit's under my name. I used to work at a haunted house in college, which fuels my love for horror, all things horror. Mostly on the psychological side, but I'm a big Darcy Coates fan. I love genre blends, like anything that's like suspense, horror things. But outside of publishing, oh, I don't know. What is something that I'm only 5 foot tall, so I'm really, really good at hide and seek.
I'm a 5'3" girly, so I get it.
There you go. We use me for measuring sometimes too, or like my
Oh my gosh.
wingspan for some estimating. It's real handy.
We're the little useful packages.
The little engine that could.
Yeah. Well, Vicky, I really appreciate you taking the time to let listeners get a feel for who you are as a person. Is there any final thought or closing note you'd like to leave listeners with?
I think the main thing was just find ways to remind yourself why you want to do this in the first place. I think there's a lot of external factors, there's a lot of internal doubt that will happen throughout this process, regardless of whether you're new, you've been doing this a while. And so you really need to find the ways to truly support yourself, whether that's building that at home, finding that online, a little bit of both, or just forcing yourself to acknowledge your accomplishments and finding ways to do that. But at the end of the day, it's a hard industry, it's a hard market, and there's lots of things that will pull you back or beat you down if you let it. So don't let it.
Absolutely. So if anyone listening has questions about anything you've said or just wants to chat in the comments, would you be willing to answer their questions as you have time to?
Absolutely.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much again, Vicky, for taking the time to chat with me today.
Thanks for having me.
I want power, you play safe. I bloom sour like being a princess. I'd rather be a witch or bleed my truth every scratch.
All right, my lovely lioness, Ink and Insight Pride, give a warm welcome to Josh Foreman. Josh, would you mind introducing yourself to the Pride?
Sure, yeah. I'm Josh. I'm an agent with Fine Print Literary Management. I started here about October-ish, sometime in there, but I've been agenting now for a little over almost like a year, 6 months-ish, something like that. Yeah, I love it. It's great. I'm happy to talk about it and be here. So
Awesome. I'm excited to have you on. And for episode 1, I want to start with the most important part of this interview, which is you, the person behind the agenting role. So, who are you outside of publishing?
sure. I have a day job. I do a lot of different kinds of things. So my day job is I'm an editorial outreach manager at a company called Factsite. We're like a K through 12 encyclopedia company. Um, it's pretty cool. If you're a sports writer listening to this, you may have heard from me before. So for that stuff, but yeah, I do a lot of like recruiting and things like that for different writers to come write articles. Um, it's fun. I'm also really into like sports and things. I have dogs. Um, yeah, lots of stuff like that. Really into hobbies, all kinds of stuff. Just keep myself busy, but mostly I'm reading. That's mostly what I'm doing. I just read and read and read all the time. Queries and books and all this stuff. That's what got me into the agenting job, and I love it. So,
What did you want to do before you found this career?
I actually went to college to be an engineer, and I hated it.
Really?
I'll be honest. Yeah, I went into college and I thought, oh, I'm gonna be an engineer and I'm gonna invent all the things, and I took my first engineering class, and like the first couple classes were all about like we got to like build things, and I was like, this is really cool. I'm really into this. And then it was all about the computers and the math, and I just didn't have a head for it. I just didn't like it at all. But I'd always been really into reading in books, so I kind of eventually sort of decided after a lot of soul searching that, maybe publishing would be for me. And then I did a fellowship with Bookends in 2021,
Oh, wow.
and I learned a lot. They covered like all the different, like editorial, agenting, sales, marketing, all the different aspects, and I just kind of
Yeah.
really felt called to agenting. I felt like I was meeting lots of agents at the time, and I still do meet lots of agents, and I feel like they're just some of the coolest people I've ever met. And I remember being back like 20, I would have been like 22, 23 then. I remember being like little 22, 23-year-old Josh being like, man, these are some really cool people. I'd really like to be one of these really cool people. So that's sort of, I guess, what got me into it. And I also really like the one-on-one with the authors and stuff. That's like my favorite part about the job.
That's awesome. So what does a good day look like for you when work is not running the show?
Um, it's tough. Work's almost always running the show these days. With
Right.
the two jobs. Most days I'm working about 13 to 14 hours because I do the day job. I get up early, I do agenting, I read queries, I do more agenting after work, send out nudges, get emails lined up for the next day, all kinds of stuff like that. So work does run the show most days. But I do on the weekends and stuff try to set time for myself to read books like for myself, especially if there's like a new book that just came out that I'm really excited about or something. I do try to make sure I give myself the time to relax. I'm very aware of burnout, especially with my schedule being what it is, so I try to, set time for myself to read, watch the Super Bowl this weekend, things like that. Yeah, but mostly, not gonna lie, work's running the show. Work be running the show like 85% of the time. So
Well, with work running the show most of the time, what grounds you when things start to feel overwhelming?
yeah, I think part of it is knowing that what I'm doing it's really good for me in the long term. But I've really started to notice the work I'm doing now and comparing it to the work I did when I first started as an agent. And I've really started to see the difference in my recent submissions and things. It just looks better, it looks cleaner, it looks sharper. It's more exciting too for me. Like I put together a pitch package for one of my clients, and I'm pumped. Like I'm excited to send this out. I'm excited to talk to editors about these projects more than ever. And part of that's because my authors are growing, and a part of that is because I'm growing, because the work I'm putting in, I'm constantly improving, I'm constantly getting better. And so I think part of, when things start to get a little overwhelming, it's trust the process. Our turn is
Yep.
coming. I actually just was talking with one of my authors the other day, and he was like, man, it sucks that this is going so slow. And I was like, just, it's coming, it's gonna happen. The publishing gods got our back. We just got to keep our head down, keep doing our thing, and our turn will
Absolutely.
come. So I think that I'm also a very patient person. I trust that things will happen when they're supposed to happen.
Yep.
And yeah, so
Yep. I'm a big believer in everything happens for a reason when it's
yes,
supposed to, how it's supposed to.
yeah, for sure. I am too. Actually, I got promoted to be an agent in April of 24, because I found a project I loved, and I offered on it, and I didn't actually get her. She went with another agent. And I remember at the time being, really frustrated because it took me a while to actually find my first client. But now looking back, she already has a publishing deal with Tor, and I'm so happy for her.
Oh my
But
gosh.
but honestly, I don't know that I could have got her that deal then. I think I could do it now. I just don't, so I think that, that was definitely the right decision for her. And I'm so happy for her. Um, and yeah, so I definitely think that. And I also look back at the other clients that are other authors that didn't come with me. I don't know if all of that, like if they had all come to me, I'd have so many more clients now, and I wouldn't be able to take on some of the clients I'm taking on today.
Yeah.
So maybe, I think that, and my taste is always getting better. I'm always looking for new things. And what I'm looking for has evolved so much from when I first started that I think that, now the projects I'm bringing on are so amazing. They're so good. They've always been. I love all my clients, to be clear. Every one of them. The Lulu aspirations are so real. So, I think that, but I think now I just look for things a little differently. I just have a little bit different vision. I like to have, a really, really clear image, over the last, month or year or so, I've started to really kind of sharpen my taste, my sense of what I want. And I think that if I had signed those early authors, maybe I wouldn't have gotten to this point with things because I wouldn't have been continuing to look for clients as much because I would have had so many on my
Yep.
list.
That's what I mean. Everything happens for a reason, how it's
For
supposed
sure.
to.
Mm-hmm.
So, Josh, what's something that people would never guess about you?
I have a pretty large Pokemon card collection.
I love Pokemon.
Yeah, I have a pretty I have a really cool card collection actually. I just sent a new card round to the PSA. Me and my buddies were pretty into it. I'm always ripping packs. I'm always looking for stuff to pick up. Um, yeah, I don't know I don't really advertise it though. I mention it here and there to people like, yeah, and I'm actually working on, some different things with that stuff, but I love it. I love ripping packs. Stuff's awesome.
So,
Pulling up.
what is the most important question? What is your favorite Pokemon? OG or
Oh,
new style?
it's slept on. You're gonna be, I
Yes,
don't know how into Pokemon you are, but there's
very.
a chance you're gonna be like, who? But it's Jumpluff.
No,
Um,
I know Jumpluff.
I
I
love
love
Jumpluff.
Jumpluff.
Yes, that's my dude. Back when I was a kid, this is what partly why is we soloed the Elite Four in Emerald. So
Oh my gosh.
them were the days.
I am OG Pokemon, talking black and
Hmm.
white, Game Boy, red
Okay, yeah.
version, gold version. Like when gold version came out, I about had a heart attack. I played it. My stepdad used to have this pickup,
Hmm.
and I would sit in the back of his pickup in the bed and just sit on my Pokemon game while he was driving, playing gold
Yes.
version. Those were the days. I miss those days.
No, I
Mm,
remember going places with my dad and head down on the DS,
yes.
looking out the corner of my eye so I don't run into stuff. Locked
My,
in. Yeah, no,
yep.
it
Always.
was so different back then.
I could talk Pokemon all day. Well, Josh, that is it for episode 1. I really
Okay,
appreciate
cool.
you taking the time to let listeners get a feel for who you are as a person.
Sure.
Is there any final thoughts or closing note you would like to leave listeners with today?
Um, I don't super know. Go Hawks. Go Seahawks this weekend. So that's probably this is gonna air probably after that, but I hope they win. Go
Yep.
Seahawks.
Well, if anyone listening has any questions about anything you said, would you be willing to answer those questions
Of
in the
course.
comments?
Absolutely.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much again for taking the time to chat with me today. It was great getting to sit down with you, and I can't wait to continue this important conversation over the next 2 episodes.
Awesome.
I'd rather be a witch. Raise your hands, make 'em twitch. The saints all hide, the sinners dance.
Joining me now is Renee Runge. Before we get into it, I'd love for you to introduce yourself, Renee, in whatever way feels comfortable to you.
Hi, everybody. My name is Renee, and I'm an associate agent at Spencer Hill Associates. I am based out of Boston, Massachusetts, although our agency is based out of Florida. And I'm excited to be here today.
We're excited to have you. So, who are you outside of publishing?
Outside of publishing, I work a day job as an administrator at one of the major cancer institutes in the New England area, where I work on the clinical floor all day, interacting with patients and their families and fielding their various needs while they're in clinic. I am an avid listener of all kinds of music and big appreciator of art. I love spending time with my friends, family, my animals, and reading, of course. And from a young age, I've been really involved in various community service efforts.
So, what did you want to be before you found this career in agenting?
Before I became really interested in agenting, I was dead set on continuing my education through a PhD in English because I wanted to become an English professor. I really wanted to teach and research children's literature at the university level because that was what most of my college mentors were doing. And prior to entering undergrad, that wasn't something that I really realized that you could even do, because when you're in high school and you are doing literary analysis, most of the books that your teachers are giving you are the old dusty classics, which do have their merit, but nobody ever really tells you that you can do the same thing, but with children's books.
Right.
um, but this specific moment in time with humanities programs facing such uncertainty, professors not retiring as much, and we're seeing way more book bans in the children's literature world. It all of that made me start to feel really anxious about the prospect of spending 6 more years in school and coming out without a job afterwards, or finding the same kind of job that I would have already been able to have without a PhD.
Right.
So about midway through my master's program, I decided that I should start thinking a little bit more seriously about what it would look like for me to enter the industry.
What does a good day look like for you when work is not running the show?
A good day looks like a Saturday morning with an iced latte from one of my favorite local coffee shops. I love to bring my iPad and sit in one of our local places from pretty much open to close, either catching up with some client reading or spending some time reading already published books of my own choice, which feels crazy. um, Coming home for a nap in the afternoon and catching up with friends over some food in the evening. Maybe throw in a movie in there that I've been meaning to see, or a concert from one of my favorite artists. And of course, spending time with my cat.
Absolutely. That's like one of the most important things too. So what grounds you when things feel overwhelming?
Honestly, I think it really helps to have friends outside of publishing who don't fully understand what it is that we do on a day-to-day basis, because sometimes they're able to provide a perspective that people who are insiders may not necessarily be able to offer. Playing with my animals is always a huge, huge way that I de-stress. Of course, there's always taking a steamy shower, making sure that my personal chores are done, because you feel a lot better when your room is neat and tidy.
Yeah,
And for me,
absolutely.
a freshly made bed with warm sheets is always very welcome on a day where I just want to lay down and get away from it all.
What's something people would never guess about you?
Something a lot of people don't know about, because I definitely don't talk about it as frequently now, is that when I was 14, I actually started my own nonprofit organization in my home county, Palm Beach County, Florida. It was aimed at teaching fellow teens how to organize and promote their own community service projects with various community partners. And by the time I graduated high school, I had logged thousands of community service hours and even received recognition from some pretty major federal and state government figures at the time.
Oh, wow. That's a lot.
Yeah, sadly, my nonprofit is now defunct. Things got pretty hard after the pandemic in 2020, but I still carry with me the lessons that it taught me in leadership, professionalism, and communication with all kinds of stakeholders, which I feel has been really valuable to my career as an agent.
Absolutely. Well, Renee, I really appreciate you taking the time to let listeners get a feel for who you are as a person. Is there any final thought or closing note you would like to leave listeners with today?
No, I don't think so.
Perfect. Well, if anyone listening has any questions about anything you said, or would you be willing to answer questions if they ask them in the comments?
Yeah, of course.
All right, my lovely LI&I listeners, that concludes episode 1 of the Agent Unveiled. I want to thank each agent for being vulnerable and taking the time to let listeners get a feel for who they are as people while sharing things most of you may not have known about them before today. That takes a lot of courage, and I'm honored to be able to provide a safe space for that. This was a soft intro into the series before diving way deeper into the unknown aspects of the agent role in 2 weeks and with episode 2. In the meantime, next week, a follow up written article will be published on Substack that could feature you and your posted comments from this podcast episode. So, listeners, drop a comment, ask questions, and let's work together to remove the veil and build a bridge as a community between agent and author.
Make the heavens glitch. You want calm, I want stone. I crack bones just to be reborn.
That's all for today. Thank you again for stepping into the den with me. And listeners, don't forget, I want to hear from you. So drop a comment or hit my DMs with conversation topics you want to hear or even be a part of. Your voice is valuable too. Let's work together to bring humanity into conversations and talk about what it means to build something honest in a tough world. Hit that subscribe button so you don't miss the many conversations I can't wait to have with you. You can subscribe for free or support the show even further with a paid subscription that gives you immediate access to exclusive content and special extras. As always, whether you've already clawed your way out of the darkness in your life or are still trapped inside, I'm here. Through Lioness Ink and Insight, I'll sit with you and paint a star of light in it to keep you company. You're not alone anymore. You're a member of my pride now. And I'll be the loud, fierce centennial holding a quiet space of healing for you, an escape from the darkness as you find your way to the light. Thank you for tuning in and joining me in the Pride Lands of Lioness Ink and Insight. Until next time, stay real, stay weird, stay fierce.